Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Injury Law Pod. I am your host, Eric Bartlett, 28-year personal injury lawyer. And this is the podcast where we talk about all things personal injury law related. And up today, we're talking about man's best friend and when man's best friend turns on us. And unfortunately, this is happening more frequently these days. There's a rising number of dog bites and fatal attacks. And here at my law firm, in the last week and a half, we have had three new clients that have been bitten or attacked by dogs. And so my personal experience here at my law firm just shows that this is a real issue, and this is not just a statistic, this is real life. Dogs are attacking people or biting people, and it's something we all face. Personally, within the last year, I actually was bitten by a dog. I was out walking in the street, and apparently, this dog's underground fence was not working, and the dog came out. And thankfully, he bit me on my leg and then ran back to his yard. But it was crazy. It was a crazy experience because I've represented lots of people in dog attacks and dog bites. And until you experience it, it's a pretty shocking event to have happen. And again, I was fortunate. I think I'll have a reminder on my leg forever. But the crazy part about it was just how quickly it unfolded. And I had no ability to stop the dog from getting to me. Even though I tried, he was quick and he got around the backside of me and bit me right on my calf. And it's just something we never know when we're out and about where we might encounter some dog that, for whatever reason, decides he or she does not like you. And so that's my personal story. And recently in April, National Dog Bite Prevention Week occurred, which again is a great opportunity that just brings awareness to this problem. And again, it happens daily. If you look at news here in the Kansas City area, we've had a couple notable situations that have involved dog attacks, people being mauled by dogs. And again, one of these clients that we just recently signed up, it was a full-on mauling by a dog. It wasn't just a simple bite. And so really scary stuff. But there are nearly 90 million dogs in US homes. Obviously, if you think about it, you probably know or have. You either know somebody that has a dog or you have a dog, or maybe more than one. And so it's something that every day is a potential encounter that we might have. So according to the Centers for Disease Control, fatal dog attacks have doubled from around 40 to nearly 100 annually. There are estimated 4.5 million dog bites a year. This is likely post-pandemic. People were buying dogs because they were staying home. And so dog ownership has increased since then. And again, there's a rise then in dog attacks. Another potential reason for this increase, there's been more dog adoptions. There's been less socialization during that COVID period, and just increased stress amongst owners and their dogs. Now, again, it doesn't take much searching to find recent events here locally that just highlight the dangerousness of this situation. And when somebody's attacked by a dog, there's obviously multiple components that go with it. First off, there's going to be medical bills. 9 times out of 10, my personal situation, I went and got checked out by my doctor, got on some antibiotics, things like that, pretty minimal. A lot of people end up in the emergency room. They have to have stitches. Again, there can be facial attacks, there could be scarring. It's a very traumatic event, especially if you're younger, if you're a kid and you get attacked by a dog, that's going to have potentially lifelong effects on your mental state when it comes to dogs and your anxiety and being scared. And it's just trauma. There's no other way to look at it. So there's a lot that goes into this personal injury world when a dog attacks somebody. So in Missouri, when we look at the law as it relates to animal attacks, Missouri follows a strict liability rule as far as this is concerned. And so what does that mean? Basically, there is no one bite free rule like in some other states, meaning that if a dog has never attacked somebody, never had an aggressive situation, there's no responsibility on the dog owner. In Missouri, dog owners are automatically liable if their dog bites, even if it's the very first time. So we differ here in Missouri from some other states that basically give that first bite a pass, if you will. And so Missouri has pretty strong, at least protections on the backside of a situation for those that might need to make a claim against a dog owner if that dog has caused injury. And the other part of this is that the victim does not need to prove negligence on the part of the dog owner, just that they, the victim, were lawfully on the property and they were bitten without provocation. So again, you don't have to show necessarily that the owner did something negligent. If their dog bites somebody, they're on the hook. Now, again, what are the damages that can come out of this? Again, you're going to have medical bills. If you're working and you can't go to work, you're going to have lost wages. Again, you might have disfigurement, scarring, things of that nature, pain and suffering. Obviously, these are very painful events. They can cause not only a lot of pain, but the suffering that goes with it. Again, if your face has been involved, the effects of obviously having your appearance altered, all of these things can play into the damages that go along with a dog attack. In Missouri, just like most personal injury claims, you're going to have 5 years from the date of the attack to make a claim against that dog owner. Kansas, you're going to have 2 years. So you always have to keep in mind there are important deadlines if you find yourself in that situation for making a claim against an owner. And as we always say, even though you have 5 years or 2 years, you do not want to wait because important evidence, things like that, witnesses, photos of the dog, records on the dog, all that stuff could disappear. So you want to make sure if you've been in that situation, you're acting quickly, you're preserving all the evidence that's out there. And also of interest, a lot of times we see dog owners that are renting property. They might be in a rental house. And there are certain limited situations where you might be able to hold the landlord of the tenant and that dog responsible for the dog attack. Again, generally speaking, a landlord is not going to be responsible for their tenant's dog. However, if they had a prohibition on pets in the lease and they didn't enforce that, and then the pet caused a problem, you could potentially make a claim against the landlord. So that's always important as well. Because, when these things unfold, obviously we're looking to get the victim compensated. And so we're looking, where is the money? Where's the money going to come from? And as I've discussed many times before, a person probably personally is not going to have the assets to compensate you for injury in this situation. So we're looking for insurance. And if it's a renter, and if they don't have renter's insurance, you got a problem because there's probably no money there. So, you're trying to figure out if there's insurance, renter's insurance. And then again, what's the situation? What's the relationship with the landlord? What's the lease agreement say? Was there a prohibition? Had there been problems before and the landlord knew that there was a problem with this animal and they didn't take any action to have the renter get rid of the dog? So again, lots of things go into this, and it's important to know all the ins and outs when you're in this situation. So, what are good prevention tips for dog owners so that they never find themselves in the situation where their dog has caused somebody serious injury? Obviously, training and socialization. You got to start young, you got to reward good behavior. You need to get your dog in the mix with other dogs and other people. Because a lot of times, especially breed specific, if the dog is not used to people, then they're more likely to be protective of their owners and more likely to be aggressive towards outsiders. Again, routine vet visits are important just for their physical and behavioral health. Vets can identify if there's a potential issue with an animal. And the experts always recommend avoiding punishment based training because that can increase aggression. You want to have reward for good behavior. Again, you should slowly introduce dogs to crowds, dog parks, new people, get them out, get them used to people so that they are not aggressive. And you need to watch for signs of stress signals in dogs. And believe it or not, there are signals. A dog might be yawning, might have their tail tucked, might have a stiff body posture, all of those things. And as the owner, you need to be aware of that. And if you're faced with an unfamiliar dog, you need to be aware of that as well. Signs that dog does not want to be in contact with you. So let's talk about children because, again, I just signed one up. I've had numerous children that have been attacked by dogs. And again, I literally just have one right now and totally innocent. This dog attacked this child without provocation. And the statistics show that children under 10 are the most frequent victims of dog attacks. Why that is, not sure. But here's the scary part. What are the common injuries? Bites to the face, head, and neck, because they're right there on the same level as the dog. And again, we've seen it. We've seen really bad facial scarring from dog attacks. And if you have children, obviously, in an effort to try and avoid a bad situation, you've got to teach them don't disturb dogs while they're eating or they're sleeping. You don't want to startle a dog. You always need to ask permission before petting a dog. And even then, as a parent, you've got to exercise the discretion as to whether it's even a good idea, even if the owner says no problem. And this is a hard one, but in theory, you've got to tell your kids you don't want to run from or scream at a dog, because again, they can view that as a signal to attack. It would be great if Missouri schools, Kansas schools would incorporate dog safety education. I don't know of any, but it's up to us as parents to help guide our children along so that hopefully they can avoid a bad situation. If you find yourself in the situation of having a dog bite or a dog attack, what should you do? Number one, what makes the most sense? You've got to get medical care. And again, depending on the severity of the situation, that's probably going to be obvious. If you're seriously hurt from a dog attack, even if it's a bite, like I went and got checked out because of the concern for infection, things like that. I made sure I contacted the owner. I got the vet records. That's really important. You want to get local animal control or the health department involved. You want animal control coming out and investigating and possibly quarantining the dog, depending if the vet records are up to date and accurate. That puts everybody's mind at ease for the possibility of rabies or something else like that. But you want to have authorities involved and you want to document everything. You want to get photos of the injuries. You want to get photos of the dog if you can, You want to obviously keep track of your medical bills and the records and things like that go along with that. Were there witnesses? You want to nail down what those people saw, what they have to say. What do they know about the dog? Does anybody know the history on the dog? Has this dog been a problem before? Because again, even though Missouri does not require a problem before, obviously, if the dog has been a problem before, the owner didn't take any action, that just adds to their responsibility in this situation. And again, I can't stress enough that you want to identify that owner as quickly as possible. You want to get the authorities involved. You want to see the vet records. You want to make sure that you're not going to be exposed to something more serious. Now, here's the thing. If you're a dog owner and your dog has attacked somebody, or if you're making the claim for the injury, when we get involved, we're going to be looking at a few things that could become very important in making this claim. And again, as a dog owner, you're probably going to want to have this in mind as well. Number one, was there a provocation by the victim? So, was the victim tormenting, teasing, doing something to provoke the attack? Or was this out of the blue, no provocation? If there was provocation, then that can be a problem for making a claim. The other thing is trespassing. Again, was the victim unlawfully on the property where they were attacked? Because if they were, they're going to have a problem making the claim. And again, all of this goes to comparative fault, which I've talked about before. Missouri puts responsibility on everybody involved in a personal injury situation. So the dog owner could be 100% responsible. The person that got attacked could be 100% responsible, or it could be somewhere in between. And again, that's why it's going to be important to hear from witnesses and know the history of the dog and all of those things to determine who exactly is at fault for this incident. Every time we have these incidents occur in the news and things like that, there's usually some kind of movement to emphasize responsible dog ownership as public safety. And again, every city is going to have leash laws, breed specific ordinances. Obviously, the pit bull type dogs have been targeted in municipalities, and whether you agree with that or not, that's just a fact. And leash laws, obviously, if you've got your dog outside, you need to make sure it's contained appropriately so that it doesn't cause a problem. And again, in the public realm, you've got to have the message out there about being respectful to dogs, asking permission before you approach a dog, and don't approach unfamiliar dogs because you just don't know. But again, like I say, in my personal situation, I was on the street and that dog came at me, and there was nothing I could do about it, not provoked. And so usually the best prevention is on the owner. But dog bite prevention is a community responsibility. We all need to be aware. We all need to be doing our part to work towards no dog attacks. Again, they're on the rise, and usually the result is serious. So let's keep in mind that preventing bites protects both people and their pets. Typically speaking, if your dog attacks somebody, it's probably going to be put down. And so if you love your dog and you want to keep your dog, again, the responsible thing to do is make sure your dog is safe. You got to make sure you know your rights under the law if you are involved in an attack, and you want to make sure that you're doing all the things necessary. And I would just encourage you as a parent to educate your kids, train your dogs as a dog owner, and again, if for some reason you've been involved in an attack, get legal help. There's a lot of different elements that go into a claim for a dog attack, and you might just miss it. You might make a mistake. You might not properly preserve the evidence. You might not get the appropriate medical care. Whatever it is, you want to make sure you're getting good legal guidance in making a claim against an owner of a dog that has bitten or attacked you. So, as always, I'd encourage you reach out if you've been the victim of a dog attack, dog bite, and otherwise stay safe and stay well till the next episode.